Welcome, everybody. I'm Sue Ann Carlson. I'm the Executive Director of Homes on Wheels Alliance, sometimes called HOWA, which is our acronym, HOWA. And welcome to this 11th annual RTR. This year, because of the pandemic, we are doing online classes, and I'm very glad that you're here. This morning's topic is about boondocking, and I would like to introduce our speaker. Her name is Abby Rodriguez, and she joins us from South Carolina, so a long ways from us here in Quartzsite, Arizona. She and her wife, Natalie, live in a van, and they've been doing so for 2 years. Nat and Abby's YouTube channel is called Let's Play Ride and Seek. At your leisure, I'd really encourage you to check out that YouTube channel, and the link to that is in the description down below of the video. So with that, Abby, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sue Ann, and a big thank you to the whole Homes on Wheels Alliance crew for putting this together. I am thrilled to be a part of this awesome community. Personally, Natalie and I have gotten so much help from the community here on YouTube and in person. So I'm very happy to be able to give back by presenting this class. Like Sue Ann said, I do live in a van full-time with my wife and 2 dogs. So you might be wondering why I'm not in the van right now. I'm in a house, and that's because we are in the middle of renovating our van. We've torn everything out and we are rebuilding. So it's a bit of a mess, and we're very lucky to be staying with a friend while we are doing this process. We're hoping to be back in the van and traveling and living in it full time by late spring. Yeah, so today I'm going to be speaking about boondocking. My wife, Natalie, and I, we've been living in our van for 2 years, driving around North America, and we've only paid for a campsite 3 times. That's right, that's 727 nights that we've camped for free. How is that possible? You might be wondering. We boondock. Boondocking is absolutely our favorite way to camp and to live as nomads. And I am so excited to be sharing my knowledge and experience on this topic today with all of you. So let's get into it. What is boondocking? Here's a little photo of me in my van. So what is boondocking? If you're new to the camping scene, there's a pretty good chance this is the question that's rolling around in your head right now. Boondocking is off-grid camping or camping outside of developed campgrounds or RV parks. It involves heading into the middle of the wilderness, the boonies, if you will, and setting up camp. It's a quieter way of camping, one that often lands us in beautiful destinations for days or weeks at a time. It also means camping without amenities, without luxuries, without electricity, water, or sewer hookups. It could also mean that you have the luxury of camping without a neighbor in sight and with some absolutely gorgeous scenery right outside your window. And it also means that you could be camping for free, which is something that we can all appreciate. All right, so let's go over some of the terms of boondocking. There is some other names for it that you might hear, like dry camping. Boondocking is also called dry camping, dry because there are generally no water services available. That's something you really have to provide if you plan on boondocking. Other terms might include primitive camping because you're out in a primitive area, so nothing around, out in the wild. Again, wild camping. These are all other terms for boondocking. Dry camping is going to be the one that you'll probably hear the most often, but other terms to look out for are primitive camping and wild camping. Another term you might hear is dispersed camping. Generally, this applies to boondocking in the forest. And again, it just means camping outside of developed campgrounds. Now, another term that you might not have heard of is Wally-Docking. Staying overnight in parking lots like Walmart is technically dry camping, but we call this Wally-Docking or simply overnighting. I really like Wally-Docking because it's kind of cute. And honestly, while it might be dry camping, it doesn't really capture the essence of boondocking, but if you are a full-time nomad like myself and my wife, you'll probably do your share of Wally-Docking. It certainly goes a long way to extend your budget while you're on the road. And then another term, mooch-docking. Again, dry camping, you're not staying in established camping, but maybe you need to stay overnight at a friend's driveway. We call this mooch-docking because, I mean, come on, how can you not stay in a friend's driveway and ask for a hot shower? Everyone's okay with a little mooch-docking here and there. Okay, so if this sounds really appealing to you, getting out into the wilderness, you know, it's real camping without, you know, other people around and just really being able to be in a remote location, then you might be wondering, well, how do I find these boondocking sites? Now, there are several ways to find some boondocking. First would be just to do some general research. Depending on where you plan to go camping, you'll want to do research on that area. Since we knew we were going to be driving around North America, we went online on YouTube, everywhere to see how we could find boondocking sites in North America. Through research, we discovered that there is a ton of public land here in the USA where you can camp for free. A couple of areas that came up when we were doing our research were the Bureau of Land Management, national forests, and national grasslands. These places are hot spots for boondocking. Now, if you're, like I said, if you're going to be traveling to another country or another area, you're going to want to do research specifically on that area. Specifically in this class today, I'm going to be talking about how to find boondocking here in the United States of America or Canada, Mexico, because that is personally what I have experience with. Now, the Bureau of Land Management, also referred to as BLM land, these areas are really abundant out west, and they have become really some of our favorite places to go boondock. Generally, you are permitted to camp for up to 14 days at a time on BLM land. You can stay for up to 14 days and then you have to move again. This is amazing because if you are going to boondock, you're going to want to stay for a long time because sometimes it is a process to get out there. We're going to be going more into that later. But these locations can be very remote and they're very beautiful. Now, national forests and national grasslands across the USA allow dispersed camping as well outside of developed campgrounds. However, the rules can vary from national forest to forest, so it's really important to check the rules ahead of time. For example, some national forests we've been in have allowed you to camp up to 14 days at a time, while some have limited it down to 7 or 3 days. And there's been others where you can camp up to 21 days. And since the rules vary so much, you're really going to want to do a little research ahead of time. You can check guidelines. You can check guidelines online for dispersed camping in national forests. You can also check in with the local ranger station to see what the exact rules are so that you know that you're within the boundaries and the regulations that are there. Now, another thing is wildlife management areas. They might not be quite as common, but they are out there and they're available for you to camp as well. Now, you might, if you're interested in seeing any of those places that I was just mentioning, we will have the link in the description for the Bureau of Land Management, National Forests, and Grasslands. All of those links are in the description, so you can check that out. Now, if all of this info seems a bit daunting to do the research yourself and to sort through, don't worry. There are resources and apps that make it super easy to find boondocking sites. You don't have to go through all the research. A lot of us have already done the research, so you can go ahead and just enjoy camping and, you know, let us do the research for you and use the links below. Now, when we first started out on our journey of living on the road, we tended to use a website called freecampsites.net. You can go online, you enter your location, and it brings up a map with pins of free sites. It's pretty good, but you're gonna need Wi-Fi or really good cell service to use it. We really leveled up our boondocking game when we discovered apps on the phone that allow you to find camp spots. There is quite a few apps for finding camping. My personal favorite is iOverlander. This one is amazing. It's super user-friendly. It's so easy to use. You're gonna love it, I'm telling you. You simply open the app, go to the map, and see the campsite options. It lists campsites ranging from free dispersed sites, which is what you're looking for if you're boondocking, to camper-friendly parking lots, aka Wally-Docking, and also paid developed campgrounds, which I personally don't pay attention to. It coordinates these types of sites with a certain color. For example, the dispersed or wild camping, aka boondocking, is a light green. There's a middle toned green for parking lots, and then a dark green for developed campgrounds. I love that it's color toned like this because then I know exactly what to look for. If I'm trying to find boondocking, I'm going to look at those light green spots and I'm going to be able to find the boondocking that way. You can also filter. It has a filter option in this iOverlander. You can click on the filter and then you can say, oh, I only want to see wild camping. I don't want to see paid campgrounds if you don't use them. So that makes it really easy because then you just put in filter what you want to see. And then when you open the app, it only shows you what you want and what you're looking for. iOverlander also includes other resources like places to get water, RV dump stations, propane, etc. It's an amazing app for the full-time nomad and for anyone looking to find camping. It has been a lifesaver for us. Pretty much anytime we are looking for a campsite, we are getting on iOverlander and we are able to find just what we need. Now, something you should note is that most of the sites are user generated. This means that anyone can add a site to the app. Users can add descriptions, reviews, and pictures. This is super important to remember. Be sure to read the descriptions, view the pictures, and check the most recent reviews. Sometimes a site can change over the years, so it's really good to know what you're getting into. And the easiest way to do that is by looking and reading through everything. Now, specifically for us, it's good to look at the reviews because sometimes the site can change and not be available anymore, or maybe you're looking at the pictures and it just doesn't look like a place you want to go to. So always check. Now, some other sites or apps that you can use to help you find camping are Campendium and Park4Night. I personally don't use these as much as iOverlander, but I have heard from nomads in Europe that they really love Park4Night, and it's really helpful over there. And there's also been a handful of times when I have found a boondocking or free campsite on Campendium that wasn't listed on iOverlander. So it's really important to maybe go between the different ones, the different apps, have them all on your phone and ready to go. In my personal experience, I have found that iOverlander generally has more options than Campendium or Park4Night, but depending on where you are located, you might have better luck with one of the other apps. So definitely look into all of those for sure. One thing I really did love about iOverlander is that the app works pretty well even when you don't have service. If you're going to be boondocking, a lot of those sites do not have a very good self-service if they have it at all. So this is something you'll definitely want to take into consideration. So we've used this app while traveling US, Canada, and Mexico, and it's just been a real lifesaver, and we found spots in all of those places. Next, you'll want to think about how you're going to prepare for boondocking. Now that you know how to find these boondocking sites, you got to really, really think about what you're going to do when you get there. Remember, boondocking means off-grid camping. There is no electricity, no water, no services provided, and many times you'll be miles from the nearest town or store. This means you're going to need to plan ahead and bring everything you need with you. Now, be sure to stock up on water. You'll want to have an adequate supply of water for the amount of time you plan to camp. Plan not just for drinking water, but water for cleaning and bathing as well. Collapsible water containers are a great way to bring extra water while maximizing your storage needs. Now, I know Coleman makes a 5-gallon collapsible water tank. It's really inexpensive. You can easily get it on Amazon. That might be something you want to look into when you're thinking about boondocking. We personally knew we were going to be doing a lot of off-grid camping, a lot of boondocking, so we installed a 33-gallon freshwater tank into the back of our van. And then we also carry a 6-gallon portable tank for our bathing needs. And this supply lasts us 2 weeks. So for those BLM land boondocking sites where you can stay up to 2 weeks, we know we're set. We have all the water we need. Of course, you'll also need to bring food with you as well. Like I said, a lot of these sites are miles from a town, so make sure you stock up on your food. And if you're planning on staying for a long time, remember dry and canned goods go a long way to extend your stay. And there's also lots of vegetables like potatoes, carrots, and squash that can be kept unrefrigerated for a week or two at a time. So just think about that. Another thing to consider is electricity. If you want to have electricity available to you when you're boondocking, you'll want to invest in a solar-powered electrical system. Now, there are tons of systems out there, from very simple portable plug-and-plays to more advanced permanent fixtures. I'm not expert on this subject, and I know there is a class, I think later today, on this subject, so be sure to check that out for more info on solar power. If you want a boondock and you want electricity, solar power is really the way to go. All right, another really important thing to consider when boondocking is trash. You are responsible for collecting and disposing of all your garbage during your stay. There's no trash cans available to you. You've got to bring your own and you've got to dispose of it. So be sure to bring a trash receptacle and enough bags and things like that for the length of your stay. If you're camping in bear country or places where there's going to be a lot of wildlife, you're going to want a bear-proof bin to avoid unwanted guests in your camp. All right? We usually carry a large canvas bag, and then we hang it on the ladder on the back of our van, and we hang it up high to avoid animals being attracted to it. And then when we leave our boondocking site, we head straight to a fuel station or somewhere with a large dumpster so that we can properly dispose of our trash. And it's part of our mission to even leave our campsites cleaner than we found them. So we usually, pick up some trash that we see laying around and just leave it even prettier than we found it. Next, let's talk about safety tips. When you're preparing for your boondocking adventure, you're going to want to take safety precautions into consideration. Camping out in the wilderness is an adventure, and anything can happen. You're going to want to be prepared for an emergency situation. An emergency situation could mean anything from a flat tire to a breakdown to an injury, etc. It is absolutely necessary to bring a first aid kit just in case. You never know what can happen. If you take medications, bring enough for your stay, plus a little extra, again, in case something happens. Have a spare tire or a fix-a-flat kit. Many boondocking sites, like I said earlier, won't have self-service available. So some people may choose to bring a satellite phone or a GPS. We personally have never brought a satellite phone with us, but something that we do is to pay attention to when we lose service on our drive-in. That way, if we're able to and something happens, we could possibly walk back to that spot where we had a little bit of service. So just pay attention to your surroundings. Another thing, really important safety tip, before you leave to go out in the middle of nowhere to camp, tell someone where you are planning to go and for how long. Maybe have some sort of emergency plan in place. Like, if you don't hear from me by such and such date, then something went wrong. So be prepared. And most of, like I said before, also most of these boondocking sites are out in the middle of nowhere. There might be wildlife around, which is awesome. Like, we've seen, lots of animals come through our camp, and it's really cool. Make sure you observe from a distance. Don't do anything silly. Don't approach any wildlife. Observe from a distance, and you will stay safe that way. So, something to just remember, don't let the possibility of something bad happening scare you from taking the opportunity to boondock. Just take these precautions and know that you are prepared, and then you can really go and enjoy yourself. Now, let's move on to some general tips that will improve your boondocking experience. Most boondocking sites are down a long dirt road. Most of these roads are doable for all vehicles, but it will be a slow, bumpy drive. There are some that are high clearance or 4x4 roads only. So you're going to want to do your research, and if possible, read reviews on the apps like iOverland or Campendium, Park for Night, to make sure that your vehicle is going to be able to make it down the road. Plan to get to camp early. Since you're going to be driving down dirt roads without lights, it's going to be difficult to see in the dark. Also, you'll want daylight to properly choose your site and set up camp. It would be a huge bummer to arrive in the dark and set up, only to realize the next morning that a better view or better site was just a little further ahead. Have a plan B and be flexible. It's possible you'll get to a site and it doesn't work out. Always have a backup plan and be flexible about having to change at the last minute. For example, we chose a spot on iOverlander that looked great for boondocking. We arrived only to see brand new no camping signs. So we had to go with our plan B, which was another free campsite that was 30 minutes away. We were happy we left early, so we had plenty of daylight and time left to get to this other site. And it actually ended up being a really beautiful, lovely site. So it worked out really great, and we were happy in the end. Another tip, avoid arriving on a weekend. Boondocking is becoming more and more popular, so you may not be the only one headed out into the wilderness to camp. Weekends can become busy. If you can, try to arrive on like a Sunday afternoon through Thursday so that you have more options to choose from. We had to learn this the hard way more than once. Last year, we made the mistake of heading to a BLM land site outside of Sedona, Arizona on a Saturday. No. Big no-no. There was literally no space left to camp. Every single available spot was taken, so we had to turn around and head to our plan B spot 45 minutes away. It was a real bummer. We have always had better luck when we arrived to a site early or midweek. And lastly, be open for an adventure. Unlike developed campgrounds where you make a reservation and know exactly what you're getting into, boondocking is an adventure. Being open-minded and flexible will go a long way into making your boondocking experience more fun. Last year, we were boondocking in the White River National Forest in Colorado.
Excuse me, Abby.
Yeah.
I need to let our participants know that now is the time they can send you some questions. So as you look at your YouTube screen, folks, if the chat box has not come up for you, please refresh your screen. And you can do that by tapping on the round arrow that is on either the left side of your Windows screen, or if you're on a Mac or an Apple machine, look in your address bar, and that's where that round arrow is. And that's for those of you that are here today on the 16th of January watching the live feed. We'll look forward to your questions. Please continue, Abby.
Thank you, Sue-Ann. I'm looking forward to answering all of your questions. Okay, what was I saying? Yes, being open-minded and flexible will go a long way into making your boondocking experience more fun. Last year, we were boondocking in the White River National Forest in Colorado. We were enjoying our morning coffee under the trees when we heard a huge commotion, stomping and a lot of moo. The sound got closer and closer, and then a huge herd of cattle appeared, along with people on horseback and herding dogs. They all came trotting down the road and came right through our camp. It was really cool. It was a sight to see and a pretty cool experience. Check out the cows. This just goes to show you that boondocking, it's more than just camping. It's an experience. It's budget friendly. It's our favorite way to see the world, really. You can have so much adventure and so much freedom to just be living out in the middle of nowhere, as long as you prepare and you're open-minded and ready for the experience. It really will make your travels and your life on the road more of a story to tell later. I definitely recommend boondocking for anyone looking to have an adventurous experience camping out in nature. You're going to be rewarded with just beautiful scenery, peace, solitude, and so much more. There's definitely pros and cons and things to weigh out, but overall, I think you're really going to love your boondocking experience, and I really hope that some of these tips help you to get started on your own boondocking adventure.
Thank you so much, Abby. That was great. I love your energy.
Thank you.
So let's get started with some questions. So Jack Bauer asks, what is your favorite place or site to boondock?
Oh my gosh. It's hard to narrow it down to one exact place. There's just been so many. Okay, maybe my top three. Okay. One, I would say the mountains in Colorado. There was a site on, I think it was called Last Dollar Road, that was so beautiful and so amazing. Let me see, I have a picture I can share. This spot, it just made you feel like you're part of something grand and beautiful and big. And I couldn't believe that we could stay here, right here in this mountain landscape, completely for free. And we had the whole place to ourselves, and we just felt like we were on the edge of the world, and we couldn't believe it. So I think that spot's up there. And then Baja, California in Mexico. A lot of us nomads will head there in the wintertime to escape the cold. And it was absolutely one of my favorite top places to go boondocking. There's so many places where you can pool up on the beach and park. And if you're there at the right time of year. I think around February, the whales come by and you can be sitting, you know, looking out your window or sitting just outside your home and watching whales go by. And it was really easy to find boondocking sites there using iOverlander. So yeah, Baja, Mexico for sure. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Jim Donahue asks, besides cost, what are the other benefits of boondocking?
I think, yeah, besides it being beautifully, besides it being free, I think just knowing that you can live self-sustainably, like you have everything you need with you. You don't have to rely on the grid, on anything. You know that you can live off grid. You're self-sustaining, and I think you feel it empowers you in a way. And so I think knowing that you can do that, it's unbeatable feeling for sure. Yeah.
Totally agree. Okay, Terry J asks, have you ever felt unsafe boondocking? If so, how did you handle it?
That's a good question. For the most part, I would say when we take safety precautions, we we felt pretty safe. There has been a few experiences. There was one instance when we were boondocking, but we weren't alone. We had some neighbors. Like I said, it's becoming more popular, so the possibility of you having neighbors is there, and you never know who you're going to be parked next to. And we actually heard somebody get shot. Ooh. And that was a very scary experience. But our lives weren't threatened, and we had, you know, a plan in case something like that would happen. So we just went with our plan, and we were fine. So you might have an instance where you might feel a little unsafe, but have a plan, take that plan, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. What was your plan in that instance, may I ask?
Oh, our plan was to bunker inside of our van, lock the doors, and, you know, kind of trust our gut, go with our instincts. Like if our instinct was let's lock our doors immediately, that was our immediate plan. And then if we were to keep feeling more threatened, then we would drive. Even if we had to leave our stuff, we would just leave.
Yeah. Good plan.
And we always keep our front driver's seat clear. We make sure when we go to a campsite, we're pulled in to a way where we can just leave. We don't have to back out. So we back into the site so that we can just pull out. So we knew we could get away if needed. So we felt safer knowing that we could get away.
Thank you. Okay, Eric SUV asks, can you go boondocking without solar?
You can, yes. Now, like I said, the solar will really help you to camp off grid, but it's not the only way. I know some people use generators to have electricity. So if you need electricity and you don't have solar, you can use a generator. That's fine. Also, sometimes, what if you don't need electricity to live, really? You know, you can use old school primitive methods with like fire for light, go to bed when it gets dark. I mean, you don't need electricity. You don't need solar. It's more of a luxury. Do you want to camp off grid primitively? Then do it. If you want to camp off grid with luxuries, then maybe a solar or a generator or something like that is going to be for you. You just have to consider what you want to get out of it and what works for you.
Okay, thanks. This is from California RVer. Should I be concerned about boondocking in national forest after the wildfires last year, where people camping in the mountains were trapped and needed to be flown out? What precautions would you advise if someone wanted to boondock on national forest land?
Yeah, that is definitely something to consider. Very good question. Yeah, if you're really wanting to camp in a national forest, maybe consider when you're doing your research or whatever the time of year. In autumn is when the wildfires are really common out west in the national forest out west. It might not be the best time to go to forests to maybe it would be a better time if at all possible to go camp somewhere else. I know for us personally, we do plan our travel route generally loosely around weather concerns. So we will go north in the summer, south in the winter, and we will avoid places where wildfires are common just in case of emergency, for sure. Maybe if you don't have the option to plan around it, then you need to have an emergency plan in place for that kind of thing. And if it is dry season, don't make a fire. You need to check with the ranger, the forest stations to see what kind of restrictions are in place. We've traveled a lot of places, and even though we might have wanted to make a campfire, it's against the rules because there's high winds or because it's just if there's been a drought or whatnot. You need to do a little research and know what you're getting into. So if it's really important for you to have a campfire, to have that experience, then you're going to have to change your plan if it's in the middle of peak fire season. There's a lot of considerations to be taken into consideration in advance if you want to have a really enjoyable camping experience.
Good point. Okay, this is from City Nomad. Is it safer to boondock on BLM land or in the city staying at Walmart Cracker Barrel? I only stay in cities and I'm not sure how safe it is on government land. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, good question. This one is hard to answer without a personal bias. We really love BLM land camping. We honestly, before doing it very often, we were a little apprehensive and maybe had those same concerns. But after 2 years of spending so much time out on BLM land and away from cities, that's become our safe place. We feel really safe out on BLM land where you can, especially places where you can see for miles and you'll be able to know if someone's approaching your vehicle or etc. And honestly, camping in cities, staying in parking lots or on streets or whatever, which is something we still do, we tend to not feel as safe. We get a little more worried. We get a little more unsettled just because there's so many more people in cities and people are unpredictable. And yeah, so I would say it's kind of the opposite for us. We feel safer out in the middle of nowhere than we do in the middle of a city.
Yes. I think a lot of nomads would concur with you.
That might be something that comes with experience.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, this is from Bill Thomas. When driving on dirt roads on BLM land, should I plan on self-recovery if I get stuck in sand? Are the roads generally passable?
Good question. They're all good questions. Yeah, I think it's really important to be able to get yourself out of a situation. One, like getting your tires stuck in sand. They make things like, I think, max tracks that help your vehicle, where you put them under your tires to help you get unstuck. It really depends on where you're going. We've found that in our two-wheel drive long Sprinter van, we've been able to get down most of the roads to get to campsites without too much of a problem. It does take some good skilled driving and confidence in your vehicle and yourself, your driving abilities. But I would suggest going slow. And if you're unsure at all, something that we always do is I'm usually the passenger, Natalie drives. I will get out and walk ahead. I'll walk the road and make sure, see what we're getting into. If we're all unsure, I'll check. If it looks a little sandy, I'll check. And if we decide to go for it and we get stuck, then that's on us. And we bring stuff to prepare ourselves to get unstuck. That said, we found people to be very helpful. When there's been a few instances, especially in Mexico, we got stuck in the sand, and we had some people help us out of that situation. Yeah, so don't be afraid to ask. If you see, if it might be that you don't see someone for a while. You know, that's the thing when you're going to these spaces. You might be alone for a while, but if someone drives down that road, don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, Don Adams asks, where is the best place to find paper maps for BLM and National Forest land roads? I like to camp with no internet.
I love that. Yeah, getting off grid. I mean, it means being without internet, without cell phone service. I love that. So paper maps are going to help you there. I would say for going into national forests, you can go into the ranger office and they'll have maps there. The Bureau of Land Management also has brick and mortar offices that you can check out, and they should have maps available there as well. You might be able to find maps online and buy them online. I haven't tried that. The brick and mortar offices are usually the way to go to find paper maps. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, this is from Foster Farms. I was thinking of having bear spray with me when I camp in the national forest. Are bears a problem in many boondocking areas, or am I overreacting?
Oh, bring your bear spray. Oh yeah, we definitely err on the side of safety and bring bear spray. We actually have 2 canisters in like different places just in case. Especially if you're going into bear country. We've done a lot of camping in Wyoming, which it's so beautiful. I definitely recommend it. But bring your bear spray. We have not had any problem with bears being in our camp so far, knocking on wood. But just bring it along just in case. I do remember we have been hiking, and we always carry our bear spray when we're hiking, and we have a backpack equipped with everything you might need in case of an emergency. And we've seen bears, both grizzly and black bears, on the trail. So bring your bear spray. Definitely recommend that.
Do you have any recommendations for how to keep a camp in bear country?
You're definitely going to want to keep anything food related inside, not only just inside your van, but if you can put it in things that prevent smell, like airtight containers, because you also don't want a bear trying to get in your van. And like I said, with the trash, keep the trash out of the way of bears. I would suggest going onto the National Forest website and checking their guidelines for how to keep a camp in bear country. They have a lot of really good information that I've referred to when we're in bear country. We'll go and just refresh our minds on how to properly store food and trash and things like that.
Good tips. Okay, this is from Donna Van Life, who happens to be a speaker later on.
Yes, hi,
in the WRTR. Hello. Question: how much research do you do into the wildlife when you? Do you do when you go into the wildlife situation you're heading into, and what methods do you use?
In case we encounter wildlife?
I think she's asking, when you go into the backcountry, what kind of research do you do and what kind of methods do you use?
Definitely I will look into if there's any weather issues, like the forest fires, when those are popular, just kind of figuring out what to do, if there's restrictions in place there. And when we got into bear country, we specifically researched that. And like when we were heading into the desert, what kind of critters live here? Are there poisonous snakes? I'll just do a little research, and I've actually when we went to the desert, probably somewhere in Arizona or something, I was on iOverlander reading. I read through all the reviews, and somebody said, "Oh, if you have pets, be careful, because I saw some scorpions or I saw some snakes, and I'm like, okay, now I know, I'm looking out for it. I'm when just that knowledge makes you aware. So it yeah, if you're planning on going somewhere, maybe look up, oh, are there poisonous snakes in this area? What kind of wildlife lives there? And then when you find out what lives there, you can research how to deal with this issue. Like if, oh, there's copperheads in this area. Okay, how to avoid copperheads, and then so it just one little research leads to another bit of research. So it's kind of the snowball of research. So I just start by researching the area, and then I research each little thing as it comes up.
Good idea. I also know people that do research for wildlife because they want to see it.
That too, yeah.
They're photographers, for example.
Oh yes, when we were in Wyoming again, I think. Yeah, I really wanted to see moose. I wanted to photograph. I'm a photographer, so I wanted to photograph a moose. So I looked up where to see moose in this area where we were going to be headed, and there was a couple options. And sure enough, we went after doing the research, and we saw we went to this one pond where they said moose would be, and there was like a dozen moose. So the research helped.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, Elaine Kethler, is there an app you use for notification of forest fires in the area you are planning to boondock?
That's a really good question. I'm not quite sure if I have the answer for a specific app like that. I do have AccuWeather on my phone, the AccuWeather app, and it does let me know. It gives me notifications for an area. If I'm looking up the weather in that area on the app, it will then send me notifications. But I don't know if there's another app. There very well could be, but I'm not sure.
I use WeatherBug, and there is a part of that particular application that does address forest fires, as well as lightning strikes. So that could be a precursor to a forest fire.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's perhaps something people want to look into.
Very nice.
Okay, this is from Calamity Jane. I have heard that sometimes RVs get caught in flash floods. How do I know if my camp is in an area safe from flooding while on BLM land?
Very good question. I think you'll definitely want to maybe look into where flash floods are common and where you might have a trouble with them. I know out west in the desert areas, the arroyos are very susceptible to flash floods. And if you know what to look for, then you can avoid camping in an arroyo where there might be a flash flood. And also checking the weather ahead of time, seeing if a storm might approach. If at all possible, camping on high ground is better. So when you're heading out to boondock, generally like these apps will point you to, it'll be like, oh, go to this road and there's a lot of sites off this road. So that's where being flexible comes in. So if you get to that road and you see, oh, there's a little site, but it's going down, but there's another one and it's headed up, maybe always choose one that's on higher ground. I think that's what I would do.
Yeah, I think in the desert, a lot of new folks to camping in the desert will choose where there's trees and bushes. Well, guess what? That's where the water goes.
That's where the water goes.
So yeah, it's always a low ground, as you said. So again, great advice to go to the higher ground, even though it's not by that really nice tree.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, East Coaster, what are the options for boondocking on the East Coast?
It is a little more difficult, I'd say, for wilderness boondocking on the East Coast, but it's not impossible. We've found that the Appalachian Mountains have a lot of great foresty boondocking sites. Outside of the Smoky Mountain National Park, outside of the Shenandoahs, that whole mountain range, there is a good bit of really pretty forest areas that to camp in. Also, Florida, you might think of Florida and just think, you know, oceans and beach. There's actually a really pretty, like, tropical style forest
Mhm.
with national forest with boondocking sites. Yeah, if you're on the East Coast, I would suggest national forests for sure. There are some national forests. You're not going to find BLM land, but national forests have the boondocking available on the east. Yeah.
Okay, great. April's excellent adventure. She says, hello. Have you ever gotten to spot that had a huge amount of insects? Once I found a beautiful spot but I was chased out by bees.
Oh yeah, that insects are a problem for us living in our vehicles for sure because they make everything a little unpleasant, unfortunately. One time we were on a beach in Louisiana and we pulled up. We're like, oh, look at this. We're camping right on the beach. I think this was in like our first 2 months of being on the road. We're like, oh, we're camped on the beach. This is beautiful. We love it. And then it started to get dark and the mosquitoes came out. And I'm not talking about, oh, one or two, a swarm of mosquitoes. I mean, there's nothing you can do really except for we just had to go inside, close the doors, and just bunker down. And then we left the next day because the mosquitoes aren't going to leave. You're in their land, so you kind of have to respect that and be flexible. Adjust your plans. If you're parked on top of an anthill, or you know you're parked somewhere, there's horse flies or mosquitoes. Sometimes you're just going to have to go to your plan B and move and go somewhere else. Sometimes though, swarms come through, and swarms don't stay. So it's kind of tricky to know whether it's an insect that's living there all the time or if it's like a swarm that's just coming through. So maybe just take some time to observe and make a plan. Yeah.
Have a backup.
Yeah.
Okay. Sherry D's question is, what precautions do you take for mice?
Oh, yes. um, we have had an issue. I think everybody's probably had an issue with mice getting in their vehicles. You definitely want to make sure your vehicle's sealed, as mice will find little holes for sure if they can to get in. I know when we put in our plumbing and things like that, we put in the little mesh over the hole, and you want to get the not fabric but the wire, the metal kind, because mice can chew through anything fabric. So if you're building out your van, or maybe if you bought one and you're renovating, or if you just bought an RV, check for any holes that might be in place. Another really good tip is if you're parked somewhere, open, especially if it's a little cold, open your hood of your vehicle to let the engine, so that the engine, so it doesn't get too warm, because mice will crawl up into your engine and chew your wires and things. But if you open the hood so that it gets breezy in there, they don't want to be in there as much. If you can, travel with a cat or a small pet. Personally, my little dog, he doesn't like mice, and he chases them out of the van. That's just something ongoing. I don't know. We've had a problem with mice, so I'm trying to think of like the best way to keep them out myself. You just got to figure out if they are getting in, figure out where they're getting in and seal the hole. So pesky little things.
Yeah, it's just part of the life.
It is.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is from Kevin Knoll. Do you need to get a permit on a lot of national forest dispersed campsites?
There are now that's what I was saying earlier, that the rules and regulations vary. There's a lot of them that don't require a permit, but there certainly is some that do require a permit. So it really does just take checking into. Now, the apps are very useful. iOverlander. A lot of times people will leave in the reviews, the description, if you do need a permit. So if you're using that app to find camping, if you're looking at the description, you can see if you'll need a permit or not. And if you're unsure, you can always ask the local ranger station, and they'll give you that information. Yeah.
Good. Yes. Okay, this is from Davina Flaming Arrow. What advice do you give to newbie boondockers who decide to leave their location, but someone is following and following and following them?
Hmm. So you're leaving your site. I would suggest if you feel like someone's following you, then you're going to want to get somewhere maybe where you're not alone. So maybe head to a nearby town. And if you really feel like you're being followed, maybe drive to a fire station or drive to a police station or to the forest ranger station. Go somewhere where there's maybe an authority where, and maybe even that, just seeing that you're going to an authority, they will stop following you. Or yeah, you're going to want to go somewhere where you're going to be able to tell somebody, or just, have some other people around you that might be able to help you out.
Good advice. Richard Foley asks, are the rules different for boondocking in Mexico and Canada?
I don't know if they're different. They are. It is a little different. My boondocking experience in Mexico and Canada. In Mexico, it was very easy to boondock. There aren't as many rules and regulations there. In Canada, there are more rules and regulations, so that's definitely something you're going to want to consider. It depends on where you go, for sure. Yeah, just know that for sure Canada, you're going to have more rules and regulations, and you're going to want to check those out. In Mexico, it's very, very easy.
Okay. So the basic rule is before you go, check it out.
Check it out. Yeah.
Miami Sammy asks, have you ever needed chains for your rig?
We generally avoid the cold weather, so we haven't needed chains. So, I mean, if you're into snow and snow sports, and if you're planning on doing some of those types of activities, then you're going to want to have chains on hand. But we haven't ever needed chains, and we don't carry them because we just avoid that. If it starts to get cold, we leave. We head south.
The benefit of wheels.
Exactly.
Okay, I hope I'm saying this name right. It's Adric Kapoy. Abby, while boondocking, have you and Nat ever had any negative interactions with law enforcement?
I'd say we've pretty much, not while boondocking, we haven't really had, again, like boondocking, you're pretty much out in the middle of nowhere, so there's not a whole lot of people to, like, there isn't really law enforcement around that we've really had a negative interaction with.
Okay.
More been cities that those kinds of things might happen, but no, not while boondocking.
Okay, good. R. Cook asks, are there any apps that tell you where the ranger stations are located? How about apps that tell you about terrain, available turnarounds, and overhead clearance?
Yeah, I wish there was an app where it gave you, oh, I'm in a, class A RV. Can I go to this boondocking site? Or, I wish it were that easy. Again, I'm just going to tell you to read the descriptions and the reviews. A lot of the time, people in the reviews will say, I'm driving such and such a vehicle. I made it down to this site okay. So if you're in that kind of vehicle, you can. People will also say, you're not going to make it in a bus or a class A because there's nowhere to turn around. Or they will say, oh, you could totally make it because there is. So I wish there was an easy app, but you just got to read through all the reviews.
Yeah, it's just reading through and researching where you're going to go is just part of the game out here.
It's part of the process.
Yeah. Thank you, Abby. Your presentation and your answers were delightful. I really appreciate you being here. And I want to invite everybody to go check out the description down below, and you'll see Nat and Abby's YouTube channel called Let's Play Ride and Seek.
Yes.